We've done Rocky 1, we've very briefly mentioned Rocky 2, and we've done Rocky 3. So what's next? Of course, it's Rocky 4 in this episode of that song from that movie. If he dies.
He dies.
Thank you for joining that song from that movie, the journey through the very best and worst of movie songs. I am your I don't want to change, I like who I am, host Dietrich. And joining us is the man who is a fighter when we can't change what we are, Alex.
That's the mantra that I live by. You never change me. Born fighter.
I'm a fighter.
I'm a fighter.
And completing the lineup is the man who, if he can change, and you can change, we can all change. Everybody can change. It's Ben.
Changing on a daily basis. Still haven't found the person I want to be.
I would like to know in the past fortnight, what have you been watching?
Not Rocky 4.
Not Rocky 4.
Go on, Al, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? So I have seen a couple of films, but they're not new films, which is kind of, is common for me. So it's film Crooked House, which is an Agatha Christie film.
Okay, not what I thought it was.
No, it's not too old actually. It's from like 2012 or something. It's got Glenn Close in it, and it's got Christina Hendricks in it. It was fine.
She's someone who's not. It seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Actually, Christina
I
Hendricks.
think say Glenn Close.
She's the most attractive woman called Glenn.
I mean, Christina Hendricks did do the voice in one of your favourite films, Ben, Toy Story 4.
Move on.
We're
We're talking about a different fourth film today.
Watch Strangers on a Train, the original Alfred Hitchcock one from 1952, something like that.
That's a
50s.
guess. I'm gonna
It might have been 40s actually. It is very early, but an amazing film.
51. That's so annoying.
A non-watching recommendation, but film related. I read a book recently called Adventures in the Screen Trade, by William Goldman.
Sounds so boring.
No, it's not. Honestly, I would
Really?
massively recommend it. He's the screenwriter that wrote Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, All the
Oh, wow.
President's Men, Marathon Man, Princess Bride, and it's just basically like a really good look at Hollywood between like the 60s and it was written in the 80s, so it's not up to date, but some of the predictions he makes about the industry have like completely come
Like
true.
what?
So he has this whole section about superhero films, but not in the context that we understand them as actual superhero
Okay.
comic book films.
Yeah.
But he's saying that all films are becoming superhero films, and in the future those will be the only films that anybody watches.
Well.
And it's gone so far that it's like it's way more true than he even predicted it would be, because it's literally superhero films that are dominating the industry. So that's just
And it's the only things that he watches.
We'll come on to that, won't we?
But yeah, I would massively recommend it if you want to read a book about film. It's probably the best one I've ever read on that subject. So
Fair.
recommendation.
I don't read.
Well,
I can't read.
you could read this. You'd enjoy it.
Do you want to go?
Me next.
Go on.
Wow, this
We'll shake it
never
up.
happens.
Shake it up. We'll shake it up.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I'm happy to announce that I've watched 0 films since we last recorded.
This is
He's
podcast.
been watching PUBG.
I have watched a bit of PUBG.
Let's not get into talk
But-
about PUBG.
What I was going to bring up is I started watching the new series of Lord of the Rings, The
Oh.
Rings of Power.
I watched like 3 episodes of the first series and stopped.
Is it because it was so slow?
Yeah?
That's what I like about it. I enjoy that it's incredibly slow. The scenes take forever. There's lots of like wide angle shots of. Well, actually, this series it's not New Zealand, it's Scotland. But yeah, a couple episodes in, still enjoying it. Still feel like it's not related to any of the other media we've seen, but why not? It's fun.
Yeah, well,
It's a nice, fun, slow time,
I'll just keep watching the original trilogy on repeat.
But not the Hobbit films.
but not the Hobbit films.
No. The first one's alright.
I do think the first one's okay.
But again, it's like you feel like the later films ruin it. A bit like Toy Story 4.
That trailer for the animated Lord of the Rings film looks good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that does look
Looking
good.
forward to that. The War of Raheim.
It has a high bar for the 1972
Yeah,
animated
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings film. It is interesting and horror-inducing. And so you've seen nothing.
Well, 0 films.
I watched what I would... No hyperbole. I think one of the best films I've seen maybe in the last
2 weeks.
In the past fortnight.
10 years?
Oh, God.
Oh, wow, okay.
Maybe 5. Trying to think of like films where someone's going to catch me out by saying. Well, I'm trying to think of when the last Studio Ghibli.
Well, I'm trying to think what's come out recently. So
it's
surely,
not.
surely it's not Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
No, it's definitely not. No, so it's. I mean, it's slightly more pretentious than Beetlejuice. It's called Perfect Days. If anyone's on like Letterboxd and stuff, it's like one of the most watched films. But it's so it's directed by Wim Wenders, who did like. Have you ever seen Paris, Texas? You ever heard the film?
I know the film. Yeah.
He also did like a German film called Wings of Desire with Bruno Ganz in the 80s. So it's a Japanese film, but it's I think a German American director. It's basically like just pure mindfulness. There's almost no story. It's about a guy who cleans toilets for a living and how he kind of just appreciates life. Sort of what someone would generally consider someone of lower societal standing.
Yeah.
And how he kind of just accepts and copes with it. And it's one of those like life-changing afterwards. Right, I've got to sort my life out. And it lasted about 3 days. But in those 3 days, I really sorted my life out. And now I'm back to normal Drake's Ben of just, wallowing in my own filth. So for 3 days, it changed my life. I definitely would watch it, though. It's not a particularly long film. It's on you can see it on one of those weird subscription things on Amazon. Those channels that they have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on Mubi or something like that. Or find it on alternative ways that people might find films.
Totally legal ways.
TotallyLegalWays.com. That's where I get all my illegal movies from.
Total legal ways.
It's time to punch back into the Rocky franchise for the third time in this podcast, but for the first time, we're all in the same room.
First time ever in podcast history.
First time ever any podcast has been in the same room.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So if you've been listening so far and thought, they sound a bit weird, that's why.
Because we're staring into each other's eyes as we speak.
This is part of my life-changing thing. I knew I had to get back.
So this episode is the heavyweight champion songs of Rocky IV. So to find out what was happening in the world when the movie came out.
Time for some history.
Have we got any good Rocky impressions?
Not for
Alex? Me. No, Adrian. No. Nothing.
Yo, Adrian.
No sort of terrible Russian stereotypes.
No.
Okay, so we are going back to November 1985. Usually, I think the last few times I've done this, the films have been absolutely terrible, but there's some classics from November 1985. You don't believe me?
No.
No, I don't believe you either.
Ready? Death Wish 3.
Yeah.
I wish I was dead.
Oh, yeah.
The Toxic Avenger. One of the greatest cult films of all time.
That's a good one.
Yeah, see. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Was it called Freddy's Revenge?
Yeah.
Actually.
Yep. To Live and Die in LA, which is a great film. And then some odd films that I found that I've never heard of, and which the great joys of being able to have you in my front living room where I can play it on my lovely large TV behind me. But here's one that I do think we all should have in our lives, which is called The Dirt Bike Kid. So when his mother sends Jack off with money to buy groceries, he comes home with a magic supercharged dirt bike. His mother is furious, but when Jack uses the magic bike to save local hot dog stand from the clutches of corrupt big business, he becomes the town hero.
I'll put a link for the people listening. I'll put it in the show's notes, so just have a look down there for the YouTube link. Okay. I like it.
Wait for this bit. Ready? Here we go. Wait.
He looks like the Milky Bar Kid.
It does look like the Milky Bar Kid.
It's probably
or the kid from... Is it White Christmas or something?
Oh, yeah.
Wait for this bit, though. Not only is he doing various things, he goes into a bank.
Does he get like it?
The Jersey Mike subs.
That was made of absolute paper, that drawing.
God, what budget did this film have?
Classic cut crotch joke.
This is also a very classic 80s
Yeah.
trailer about showing everything. You've seen the entire film.
by hook or by crook or by lemon meringue. Yeah, I think we have seen the full film in what is a 1 minute 30-second trailer. That scene of just flying across. Some bits are like slightly exaggerated, like he drives and does a wheelie onto a table, and then some bits he's literally flying across a city. Oh, I won't play some of the other films that I found, but there's a classic one called The Ripper, which is where an old antique ring turns a college professor into a homicidal maniac when he puts it on. The ring originally belonged to
Jack the Ripper.
Nice. And the Ripper's spirit possesses whoever wears it. I also found a film which I thought was going to be one of those schlocky, terrible sci-fi films, but it had an incredible cast. So there's a film called Transylvania 65000. Ever heard of this?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, so it's got people. What's his name now? It's got the guy from Thor Ragnarok and The Fly and Jurassic Park. And
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, that's the name I was trying to remember. But it's where two reporters travel to a strange castle in Transylvania to investigate the apparent reappearance of Frankenstein. And it's like a Hot Shots sort of version, almost like a Dracula Dead and Loving It sort of style. It actually looks really good, and so that's going to definitely be on the list. But Dirtbag Kid definitely stand out alongside Death Wish 3. I wish I was dead. Is that Death Wish 7? So
cookie.
Nice.
And apparently another film came out called Rocky 4. So for those unaware, Rocky 4 is the fourth film in the Rocky film series in which Rocky Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, confronts Dolph Lundgren's Ivan Drago, a Soviet boxer responsible for the death of former rival and long-term friend Apollo Creed. Spoilers for a film from 40 years ago.
Oh God, don't say that.
Is it 85, 95, 05? It's longer. Wait, 85? Almost. Oh God, it is. Yeah. We're getting old, boys. Fourth Rocky film. Thoughts? Where does it stand?
Where does it stand?
In the list, yeah.
Ooh.
Of all depends if you count
all
6 plus Creeds.
I mean, it's better than the Creeds.
Both of them. Do you not like either of the Creeds?
Yeah, well, I think I've talked about...
Is there 3 Creeds?
There's 3 Creeds. I've not seen the third one, but I think with the Creeds, the problem are they tried to have the cake and eat it too by being serious and also, like this movie, like an unashamed popcorn movie, but you can't do both. This movie is just a popcorn movie. You run the risk of sounding like Harry Styles, but like I like the fact that it's just a movie.
It's a proper movie.
I think this movie, it just hits so many boxes for me. Like, it's fun, it's packed with emotion, it's got a ton of songs, which is why we're covering it, and it doesn't treat the audience like an idiot too much. Like, I get the impression that when they were writing the script, you could tell that they knew they were onto a winner. Like, it just wrote itself, and there were like flames coming out of the pen.
I mean, script is a strong word. It's just essentially just montage sequences.
Yeah.
Or sort of Cold War propaganda.
It's just like insert montage here. 8 pages.
Yeah.
So in the original 5 then, because that's where people kind of generally sign them off as.
I'd put it third.
Third, wow. After?
Rocky 1 at the top.
Yeah.
Then Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Then Rocky 4.
Okay.
Rocky 2, then Rocky 5.
Yeah.
And Balboa, I guess, somewhere.
Okay, so you're a fan of this,
Surprised to
but
hear
it's third in your list. Alex?
I guess the only one that I think that would be better than this is Rocky 1.
Yeah.
This would at least be second, if not the best one. I'd assumed that the only reason we'd covered Rocky 1, 2, and 3 was so that we could cover Rocky 4. Like, why else would we have done 2 and 3? I think it's I think there's a chance that it might be the best one.
Okay. Why?
The stakes are definitely the highest.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed is now dead. Spoiler alert. And Rocky is the only thing between the Soviet Union and complete world annihilation. I mean, that is an increase in stakes that no one expected from the first film. I mean, this is so far removed from the underdog story of Rocky 1. I mean, it's still an underdog story in some regards, I suppose, but it is just absolutely insane. I think it's definitely the most fun, which is you touched on that. I guess like you call it popcorn movie, I've just put it so darn watchable. So yeah, I think it's just the silliest one, and the scenes I think we'll talk about that match the songs just exemplify how like ridiculously fun this film and pointless this film is, but fun as well.
Yeah, I think I think with the third one they stopped being completely serious, and then they fully embrace it with this one.
Yeah, I will say historically, I wasn't a huge fan of Rocky 3, but then when we rewatched it for this podcast, I suddenly went, no, this one's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first 4 are good films.
They are all good films, yeah.
The 5th one's pretty terrible. I think two's a bit of a copycat of the first one. Like, there's very little difference.
Except the ending.
Well, yes.
Or the outcome of the
I
ending.
think part of that is because so I think obviously the first one was massively successful, and then he'd kind of done a few more films after that in between them that absolutely bombed. Sylvester Stallone, so he needed to make more money against. It's like Rocky 2.
And they do make a lot of money. So this took $300 million on a $28 million budget. So it's the last one that was considered really successful because 5 did quite poor.
Yeah.
And was absolutely panned. But 4 did very well.
28 million?
28 million budget, yeah. When you think, all the Russia scenes are filmed in Philly. Yeah, nothing is filmed outside of the US.
I would have assumed that like 28 million would just about pay for the pyro of Apollo Creed's entrance.
Just for James Brown.
Probably like a fifth of this film is just previous material, either from this film or previous film.
There is a lot of that. This installment is at the height of the Cold War film fever of the 80s.
Oh, I didn't get that allegory. No.
But you know,
it was so subtle.
What are the other big sort of like Cold War films of the 80s? You know, when they just start, you know, when it's like the seriousness of the Cold War starting to dim down, but it's just like the easy go of like
War Games. Is it called?
War Games? I think his War Games is always the one that stands out to me. Red Dawn. Red Dawn. Red Heat. There's a lot of red.
Yeah.
Firefox, the Clint Eastwood film. There's a lot of those sort of like before it starts going into sort of like, well, we'll just make all the villains Middle Eastern. This is like at the height where it's like, no, Russia's still our number one.
Yeah.
And we're safe to call them that. It's not like in the 50s and 60s where like we're a bit nervous to be really sort of like joking of them. Because in this, they make them out to be such comical bad guys. Like even the fact, like, I mean, thoughts on Drago, I mean, he's pretty incredible. Dolph Lundgren is, like, even just in stature, he absolutely smashes it. That scene where he's just doing the punching things when he just first hits him, he just like, oh my, yeah, it actually looks like he just killed him with a punch. But then they just have to have a scene where he's doing anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
Because Russians.
Which, they can't just be better than America. They have to be cheating.
They have to be cheating. That's the thing. And then also, you know, the final fight, halfway through, the Russians start cheering for Rocky.
Yeah.
Because of course they would.
and then Rocky does that speech. And they're like, you know, I could hear that you were cheering and this is how we heal the world sort of thing. And even Ivan Drago shouts at the sort of the Soviet leadership who are watching from that very sort of crude box and like, you know, I don't fight for you, I fight for myself. And it's like, oh my god, the amount of sort of hilarious stereotypes in this film, which is why it got mixed critical reception. So there was a lot of appreciation for Lundgren, which this was his first ever American movie. I think Dolph Lundgren's a ridiculously smart man. I think he has like multiple sort of like university degrees. He is ridiculous. Like, to the point where I think he actually might have a PhD in some form of sort of like science. He is ridiculous. He's not just. He is that kind of person. A lot of compliments for the training montages. Yep. Which are pretty sort of seminal in what is a movie montage. I think most of them are pastiched of this film. Over time, critics have softened on a lot of the Russian stereotypes, I suppose, as you move away from that. And I think people generally enjoy it as a pure popcorn movie. Like, you can't take this one seriously.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, Rocky, especially the first Rocky, is very entrenched in, like, sort of, like, the classist view of the economic downturn of Philadelphia and why that is sort of fighting the very sort of upperclassmen of Apollo Creed. Whereas this is just, this is America versus the Soviet Union.
No, it's Rocky versus the Soviet Union.
It's, well, I suppose, yes, because, you know, he's not being helped.
One of the things we have to compliment the film is the runtime of this film.
Yeah.
It's 90 minutes.
And like Alex said, most montage.
It's just like an in and out, no fat on the bones movie that leaves you satisfied. Other movies, even ones in this franchise, can't do that very well. It's something that I've knocked films up before, so like I have to call it out because you look at like Marvel films and they feel like they have to be 2 hours, 12 minutes when 90 minutes would just be fine. We don't need 20 minutes of grumbling. In this film, in 20 minutes, you've got like the whole conceit of the film and Apollo's already dancing his way to the ring. 20 minutes into the film. I think I've written down here 45 minutes. Rocky's jumping on a plane to Russia. Like there is just no scene that isn't in this film for no reason. It's like a machine where all the cogs perfectly fit. Like you remove one, the film falls apart. You add one, and it's just bloat.
Yeah.
What could you cut from this movie without detracting from it? Nothing.
I don't think you could.
Nothing.
You could cut some of the montage.
Nah.
But then the montages are replacing actual scenes.
Yeah, the montages are like the foundations of the film. You get rid of those, the house of cards will fall.
I genuinely believe that probably what happened in this film is they got to the end of the shoot, it was like, we realised they didn't have enough footage to make the film. So they had to make a montage using the previous 3 films. That was the only way it was achievable to get a 90-minute film.
Probably. And there is a lot of scenes from previous films in this. So the first song that features in Rocky IV is Living in America. It appears near the start of the film, where Apollo Creed walks out with his entrance music being Living in America, to a particularly extravagant rendition with the likes of Showgirls, Full Brass Band, and James Brown there in person, actually performing for what is an exhibition match.
Yes, let's not forget. It's an exhibition match.
The face of Ivan Drago as this is coming out, he's like, what the hell is going on? I honestly think, like, we think actually just like in character, that there's a point in that where he's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you now. He wasn't going to do it beforehand. And then the classic line, if he dies, he dies. So thoughts on this song, its use?
I mean, it's very on the nose, isn't it? I mean, it's like, obviously what they're trying to do is obviously setting America, like the extravagance of America here, to then offset that with the kind of stripped back Rocky later on as the kind of working class America against. So they're kind of portraying those 2 images of America against Russia and how one succeeds and one fails, I guess. Obviously, we know, like, it's kind of an odd one, really, because obviously we like the character of Apollo Creed by this point, but they can really go out of your way well, not to dislike him in this, but to obviously to give a validation for the reason why he ends up then dying to set up the rest of the film. But I mean, it's just the entrance is just absolutely audacious for an exhibition match. Just imagine,
Yeah,
it's
from,
just like a charity fight.
Even Tyson Fury wouldn't do this in all of his ridiculousness.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. But there's literally, like, he has to die afterwards because there's no other way to top this entrance in the film.
Oh, it's also the ridiculousness of it. He's a retired boxer coming out to this, like, 6'5" absolute monolith of a human, and he's like,
It's like the icon, like what is going on with the iconography here? Like, it's like what symbolizes like the over topness of America: top hats, showgirls, a ring unnecessarily ascending from like the basement,
lots of red, white, and blue, Star Spangled Banner everywhere,
and then a smoking ram's head.
Yeah.
If that is indeed what it was hard to really understand what was going on there.
Cut against Rocky just being like in his classic, as he is throughout all these films, clueless, like,
just wearing a tracksuit.
Got a little face thing that he does with the lips, sort of, what's going on?
So yeah, I mean the performance from James Brown obviously is exquisite, but he's like this in every film cameo he gives.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. He's in a Jackie Chan film, but I can't remember which one it is. It's like Tuxedo, maybe.
Gosh, that is a reference.
Think, and it's basically the same.
But this is like James Brown in his sort of like Elvis Vegas days, isn't it? Like he's full. I mean, I know he's always been sort of like a larger than life guy, but this is, he's just all pizzazz now. He's not. The substance has gone a little bit.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the film and you just want to get a little bit of it, just watch this scene because it is incredible.
I think the immigration rate of America went up simply by watching this scene.
This is what the American dream looks like.
The American dream is like.
I mean, most of the budget must have gone in this one scene.
I think what I enjoy as well is that Carl Weathers looks like he's having the time of his life. I don't even think he's acting. He's just loving it.
Yeah, but he's just there for this bit, isn't he, really? He's like, I'm doing this one scene and then I'm out. And it's like, I'm going to have the time of my life with James Brown for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Zeroing in on the song itself, I think this is one of those songs where, when you hear people say, music was better back in my day, you sort of listen to this song and go, you might be right. Like, it's so, like, instantly sing-alongable, if that's a word, and puts a smile on your face and such a bop to it.
Yeah.
Those Gen Xers are onto something.
It's a strut song, isn't it? It's an absolute strut song. Like you almost have to like do the sort of like the Ric Flair walk down to the.
He does, doesn't he?
He more or less
does.
So the song was written by Dan Hartman and Charlie Midnight. Could not find out if that was his real name or not.
His real name's Charles Midnight.
Charles Midnight sounds better. So it was written in 1985 for James Brown, specifically at the request of Sly Stallone. He also had to convince, though, James Brown to perform the song, who at this time wasn't that well known to universal audiences. So he's huge in the 60s and 70s, but still of a niche. So, like, I guess music was a lot more separated. You know, you went into the genre that you were interested in. You know, radio plays was of a certain type of music. What we think about the big songs of the 50s and 60s were probably not the songs that were played very, you know, regularly on sort of like daytime radio station. Everyone know James Brown's most famous nickname?
The Godfather of Soul?
Yeah, the Godfather of the Soul is absolutely one of them. Any of those? It's very quintessential for like this. I feel like this song and this performance. He's known as the hardest working man in show business.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, the King of Soul, Godfather of Soul, Mr. Dynamite.
Mr. 305.
No, Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide.
So, yeah, I mean, James Brown is a huge player in the 60s. Some of the classic songs?
Get up!
Yeah, so that was...
Yeah.
Get on the scene.
That was a bit later. So that was more of his funk sort of push in the 70s. So his early sort of stuff in the 60s.
I Feel Good, obviously.
Yeah, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, I Feel Good. This Is a Man's World. Or technically, as it's actually called, This is a Man's World, which is the name of the song, which is a terrible name for a song. He reinvented himself in the 70s with funk numbers like Get Up Sex Machine and The Payback. But then he slowly dwindled into the 80s, still performing, and was always performing, but not really breaking ground. So in 1985, when Sylvester Stallone approached him for Rocky IV with the song Living in America, which was another first for Brown because he always performed his own songs. This is the first time someone else has written a song for him. He did it to try to convince him by like, you know, this is a different opportunity. This is, you know, you've never done really a film song for before. So he took it and it became his first chart entry in 8 years. So it peaked at number 4 on the US Hot 100, so pretty high up. Number 5 over here in the UK. It won a Grammy Award. Guess what for?
Best song in the film.
You'll never know because it's one of those stupid ones. Won a Grammy Award for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance.
Got my vote.
Do you want to know? There's one other cool fact that I discovered on this song. The guitarist is Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not mentioned anywhere. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan...
Is he in the film?
I don't think so. I don't think it's completely diegetic.
Yeah, there's a band.
Maybe. He died super young, didn't he?
I only know him from Guitar Hero.
Well, I think he died in like late 20s, early 30s in a plane crash.
On the way to Russia for a boxing match.
Should have continued living in America.
Oh, God.
Okay, then. The next song that we have in Rocky IV is Survivor with Burning Heart. So, Survivor, classic Rocky performer. This one plays in part as Rocky gets onto the plane to head from Philly all the way to Krasnogorsk.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it.
Shout out to all my Krasnogorskins, where he prepares to train out in the remote lands of Russia for revenge against Ivan Drago. So it kind of plays in half, like sort of slightly in the background as other things kind of going on, but it's still a montage, a travel montage.
Yeah.
As like, you know, he's sitting with that burning fire, passion, the rage, frustration probably at the in-flight meal because I imagine that's a long trip, and that plane looks terrible. What do we think of this one?
I think this is like the movie song equivalent of a difficult second album. It's by no means a bad song, but like Eye of the Tiger was such a perfect song that people, as we've covered on this podcast before, don't even realise that it's actually from the third film.
Yeah.
They just think it's been there from the start.
It's a great movie.
But I mean, this song, I don't even think it's in the top 3 songs in this movie, let alone the entire franchise. Like I said, I do like it, and I do think it's, I put the word adequate for the scene, and I think that does pretty much sum it up. Like, he's travelling from the US to the Soviet Union. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's just overshadowed by the other songs in the movie. Maybe if this one had been in Rocky 2, instead of the cover of Gonna Fly Now, the orchestral version, like maybe this one would have stood better, but also the verses are all Cold War related, so probably wouldn't have made any sense.
It wouldn't have done.
Maybe it'd be more fondly remembered.
Out of the 3 songs we're covering, it's the worst. Or it's the least good, I would say. It's not, because worst makes it sound bad, but like you said, it's fine. I think it suffers from the fact that it's got a very similar name to the song that most people would associate with this one, which we're covering next. So it's like, it's kind of, you just forget that it exists. When you hear it, like, yeah, I do know this song, but it's not the song that I thought it was going to be, because that's the next song from the really iconic scene from this film, which again, obviously we'll discuss later. So yeah. I just think it just gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
It's a nice nod to Survivor.
Yeah, and it's not played in full. Like, you can tell they didn't really commit to it. Like, it's played in half, and I think it plays like 2 verses, and then it's just the music behind it, really. I think it starts well. I think it kicks off, and then, you know, it just seems to fade a bit. Oh, it's a bit repetitive. So again, Sly Stallone personally commissioned Survivor to come back for Rocky IV. with a new song. As we've said, these are the creators of the great Eye of the Tiger from Rocky 3. However, this time, Dave Bickler, who is the lead singer of Survivor, had gone due to vocal injuries. And in steps Jimmy Jimmerson.
That's not real name.
Jimmy Jimmerson. Could you tell it's a different voice?
No, I hadn't noticed that.
Pretty good cover then, really, isn't it? So previously, Jim Petrick and Frankie Sullivan of Survivor, who wrote Eye of the Tiger, did it to film footage. So Sylvester Stallone gave them the scenes it was going to be on, and they wrote the song for it. This time, all they had was the script.
Okay.
Which is, I think, why most of it is just Cold War references.
Yeah.
Like it says something like rival nations, it's this sort of like, there's a lot of talk about sort of conflict. But I found this quite funny. So we've all joked those references of Cold War are very on the nose. Jim Petrick of Survivor seemed to think that this might have been more nuanced than like he just discovered this. Something only he would notice. So as he exclaimed following reading the script that he said in an interview, the story had the added dimension of international intrigue with Rocky being pitted against a giant Russian boxer. I soon realised that this battle was about more than just two fighters in a ring, but about the whole struggle between the ideologies of two rival nations.
I soon realised.
That became my focus as the lyric took shape. Rocky once again had to prove to himself and to the world that he had what it took to be champion. Therein lies the burning heart.
Wow, what a genius.
What an absolute genius. So thank you very much, Jim Petrick, for showing us.
Yeah, it's really this song that highlights that
Yeah,
film.
I didn't get it until this
Yeah.
point. I didn't even realise he was Russian.
Oh wait, they're talking about the Cold War. Get it now.
Final song?
Are we not talking about No Easy Way Out?
No, we're not talking about that song.
What?
You can
Come
mention
on.
it if you want.
Okay. I'll quickly talk
There's another
about it.
song that Dee wanted to mention. Dee?
I don't know why you two guys don't want to talk about it. There is a montage where Apollo Creed's died and he's been offered the fight, and he doesn't know what to do. There's no easy way out, you could say. And
Surprising.
it takes a 4-minute detour in the film just to recap the previous 3 films and the beginning of this film. But the reason I wanted to talk about this song is that in my head, I associate this song with Bullet for My Valentine.
Wait, they covered this?
They covered this song on the Scream and Fire
Yeah.
album, and then when I was rewatching Rocky 4 for this podcast, 20 years of like, oh my god, you absolute idiot, washed over me as I realised that I knew the song because I'd seen Rocky 4 before, and it's not because Bullet for My Valentine are these fantastic writers who can write songs where you instantly know all the words. I just already knew the song, and I've just been an idiot for 20 years.
Bullet for My Valentine, wow, that even throwing it. Good old
Yeah.
trivium of that age. Alex, anything else you want to say on that song that Dietrich really wanted to talk about? Me neither.
Let's move on to the song.
The song. This is absolutely the song. So the final song we are covering today is Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty, also known as John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band.
Yeah, okay, of course. I mean, I wouldn't have known otherwise.
So the song plays during the famous montage scene where Rocky is training in the Russian snowy hills preparing for this big finale against Ivan Drago. This is a classic movie montage, maybe the movie montage. I think when I think of like, there's obviously a reference in Family Guy,
Yep.
Team America, I think is often
Rocky
you're
had a
basically
montage.
joking. Even Rocky had a montage. We are referencing this. Thoughts on this one?
This is the best montage scene in cinema history.
There you go. Yep,
Fact.
it is. Yeah.
Fact.
In a film that has many montages.
In a film that has a lot of
like,
montages.
it really tests the format.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it almost like Rocky 4 is a compilation film?
It
Yeah.
is, and that's maybe why it works so well. This montage is so long that it has 2 songs. It has a musical song,
Just
like
like
an
it is,
instrumental song, and then halfway through breaks in to this song, Hearts on Fire. It's a 10th of the film. It's this montage.
Wow.
It has
Essentially.
a guitar solo.
Yeah, it has everything. Like if you tuned into this film not knowing anything about Rocky, you would be forgiven for not knowing what they were training for, because Rocky is just like pulling rocks on a sled at one point.
Yeah.
He's chopping down a tree at one point.
It's very Karate Kid, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's running around in a sheepskin coat. He's
Yeah.
like Del Boy. He's like Del Boy preparing to sell the market. It's like, what is going on? And then like it's interspliced with scenes of Ivan Drago just like hooked up to machine, like the
Yeah.
most 80s looking tech you've ever seen in your life. You know, you just know what you're like. These are not real devices.
Thing is, though, actually, apparently they were cutting edge sporting.
Were they?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
apparently they were. And apparently a lot of the budget was spent on using those.
Now I want to know whether or not, when you saw like how many pounds of pressure he was
Yeah,
punching,
and all
was he
that
actually doing
all
it?
that sort of stuff.
2,000.
It's quite famously in this film, as opposed to the previous Rocky films, they actually punched each other a lot. Like, he had to go intensive care.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were actually hitting each other. Which is, it's one of those things where on one hand you think authenticity, on the other hand you think of CTE.
My favourite thing that Ivan Drago does in his routine that's cut with Rock is he's just like running around in a circle and just punches like a bag and then runs around in a circle.
Yeah.
It's like, what's he going to need that for? Like,
I mean,
what is he training for?
You say that when if no one's ever watched boxing, they make it so exciting because there's zero defense in Rocky films, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're literally
Just
just
smacking each
absolutely
other.
smacking each other. But a few times in this one, they literally just wrestle each other. I think at like 2 or 3 points, Ivan Drago just picks up Sylvester Stallone and throws him.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the other great thing that this montage has a lot of is differing side characters, just like watching the two competitors and going and nodding and going, "That's it, Rocky. You got it.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this, Rocky. He's gonna do this, by God."
He's getting beat.
It's just that for like 7+ minutes.
Bridget Nielsen looking
Yeah,
like a stern mistress.
yeah. Don't do it, Rocky. You're gonna die, Rocky. And then Paul was like, "You can do it, Rocky." Then there's just loads of Russian people with clipboards and like
yeah, it is, isn't it?
suits. Yeah, it's absolutely iconic. What I like as well is like there's that the probably most iconic bit is the very end where he's on top of that mountain. But you look at it, it's like that's not what he was climbing up initially. He's climbing up a small snow hill, and then all of a sudden he's on a rock face, and it's not the same.
And it will probably have been somewhere in America.
Somebody want to do the show at the end?
Yeah, not a chance.
No. Okay, have to imagine it. Yeah, I mean, when we said we were doing Rocky 4, this is the first song I thought of. It's just Rocky 4 in a nutshell. And I mean, just of course, it has to be over the top. Our warm-blooded hero, epitomising the heart and the never-say-die attitude of the United States of America. God bless them.
Yeah, the true underdog.
The true underdogs, yeah. Some say that Mikhail Gorbachev decided to tear down this wall because of this film.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Strangely, this song did not do as well as the other two we've discussed so far.
What?
It reached 76 on the Billboard Hot 100. I think you can obviously tell by the fact that they put James Brown in there where they were pushing in the sense of songs. Also, I think Sylvester Stallone had a strong bias to Survivor because of the success of Eye of the Tiger. So I think this was just an afterthought, which is incredible to think of how successful it was. Obviously, John Cafferty, not a big name. This is, you go for his Wikipedia, this is his song. This is the song that's made him. There's very few other things. It's not John Rafferty. Yeah. So yes, Sylvester Stallone approached John Cafferty after they had done the song for Cobra, his other action film, terrible film. He had a song called Voice of America's Sons, which again is just burning with patriotism. But yeah, one odd, terrible factoid about John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. Any ideas how they might have gotten their name?
Did they wear beaver skin coats or something? Hats?
Beaver brown is a paint colour, and they picked it out. Like you get those fancy colours.
Like swatches.
Yeah.
Like
Sort of like, settled oyster and stuff like that.
Sea's breath.
Yeah.
The wind's whisper.
When I'm painting the shed, what I'm after is Beaver brown.
Top 5.
Is it top 5 Rocky films?
It's not top 5 Rocky films. I am not that lazy. I am quite lazy, but I'm not that lazy. One of the running jokes in this podcast, how much I hate Toy Story 4. What a fantastic trilogy, ruined by a 4th film. This series, made greater by a 4th film.
Yep.
But I wanted to know, and I went through the internet, picked the 10 highest lists of what are the greatest 4th films. Fourthfuls in cinema.
This is going to be
some
difficult.
of this is arguable of what is a 4th film, so I've ruled out some.
Oh, okay.
I ruled out Toy Story 4 because I hate it, so I didn't count. I've also ruled out like Thunderball.
All right, okay.
Because it's the 4th.
The 4th James
It's
Bond.
just, but it's not really.
They're not a
linked.
sequence.
No, there's arguments.
4th films. I might just have to just name 4 films rather than try to think of good ones.
Yeah, because I mean, like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was a 4th film.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best one. Obviously, there's one of the Twilight films.
Yeah, one of them. The Matrix Resurrections.
Oh god, that can't be in it, surely.
So far you've said none.
What about like event? What's the 4th?
What's the thing you always forget to do?
Oh, is it
Rocky
Rocky
IV?
4?
Rocky 4,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
4th highest, Rocky 4, as it should be.
Creed 2.
Obviously, Police Academy 4 will be in them.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no.
Back in Action, or what it's called.
Not on that.
City Under Siege.
Are any of them like it's the fourth film in the sequence, but it's like a remake or...
Yeah, so stuff like that. Think about stuff like that.
What about any of the MCU?
You need to be thinking outside
Like,
the box.
does-
No, actually, I
does Thor
count. Some
count?
people did that, but I didn't
Yeah.
count them. No.
That's the first time I've realised that Thor is the fourth film. Thor.
I think only one of these films has the actual number 4 in them.
Are any of them superhero related?
Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
No. One I think you should get.
Is it Star Trek?
Is it Star Trek?
Star
4?
Trek 4.
Voyage Home.
Yeah, Voyage Home.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that was 5.
It's a good one. Nuclear Vessels.
So there is actually one that is like a direct fourth film of a sequence.
Yeah, one is called, has a number 4 in the title. A very recent film. The other 2 are not, and one I think you'll find.
Scream 4.
No.
Final Destination 4.
No. You really liked it. I didn't like it as much.
But was it Planet of the Apes one?
No.
I really like
Interesting, that one. Chapter 4.
John Wick?
John Wick. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Third, yeah. One film technically should be high, but I've not counted it for reasons.
Oh, we've got 2 left.
2 left. 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Are any of them animated?
No. 1 is a really good film that had a massive gap between the 3rd and the 4th one. And a 5th one came out quite recently. Again, you need to be
Bad
thinking
Boys.
out of the box, because, yeah, that was on some lists.
Bad Boys.
But yeah, in that realm where they're not called 4th, but they're just like
yeah, I
the
was thinking
4th.
it's something
Yeah.
like Ghostbusters or something.
It's so this is going to be hard. It's like a sort of dystopian film.
The Maze Runner. Hunger Games.
Not the Hunger Games. Because that new one looked terrible.
Divergent.
The one that's just come out doesn't have the same name as all of them. All the first 3 are called the name : something else.
The Bourne. Jason Bourne.
No, that was on some list, but the Jason Bourne is the 5th one.
Oh, yeah. Is it the 4th or the 5th?
It was the
Depends if
4th,
you count the Bourne Legacy.
which is terrible.
It's awful.
Really, really, really big, like one of the most popular films on the internet. The 3rd film will have
Jesus Christ,
the
we are doing
3rd
bad
film.
here.
Is it X-Men?
Now, the 3rd film we'll cover on the podcast because it has a big song. They're all quite different. It's 2 words :
We are struggling.
It's 2 words. The second word is a person's name.
Oh, Mad Max.
Oh.
Mad Max Fury Road is the 4th one.
Is it? Oh yeah, because
Yeah,
of course.
Tina
Yeah.
Turner is in the
Beyond
3rd one,
Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome. And then 5th, Furious has just come out.
Yeah.
This is another one. I think the 5th, I forget, no, the 6th film I think just came out last year, but I think it was released at the same time as Oppenheimer, so they didn't do very well.
Is it
Barbie.
like Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Ghost Protocol. There you go.
What?
Did terrible.
Yeah, we did really bad.
We did get them, but with a lot of help. Was that?
The question is, though, because you eliminated Toy Story 4, was that originally top of the list?
It would have been 5th.
Mm.
Toy Story 4 is pretty decent. It's fine.
No.
So that brings an end to another episode of That Song for That Movie. Let us know on one of our many social media platforms that are far too much burden to update all the time, but I still try. Who did this last time? Alex, what is our social media handle?
It's a TSFTM pod.
Thank you. You can help the podcast by sharing this on Reddit. Well, what random subreddit should they share it on this week, Ben?
Siberian Tigers.
Okay. Fine. So you can also help the podcast by signing up to our Patreon, buying our merch, telling your friends about the podcast, and leaving a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. All of the links are in the show's notes. So it's goodbye from myself, goodbye, and goodbye from Alex.
So Sylvester Stallone once said, "There'll never be a Rocky 4. You gotta call a halt." Thank God he didn't.
And goodbye from Ben.
Adrian's Revenge.
I really thought one of you were going to do the Drago. Damn.
Drago!
There we go. So, goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye. Yeah.
Nice beaver.
Thanks, I've just had it stuffed.